Well, COP30, the International Climate Summit, kicked off this week in Brazil despite the lack of a formal U.S. delegation. Today, about 100 indigenous protesters blocked the main entrance of the conference, the latest in a series of largely peaceful protests. The goal of this year's conference, which continues next week, is to focus on efforts to limit the global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So for more on COP, we're joined now by Alexis Abramson, the Dean of Columbia University's Climate School. She is just back from Brazil. Thank you for joining us, Professor.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So what did you make of the progress that this week may have ensued?
Yes, I think COP30 this year is particularly focused on taking the ambitions we've had over the last many decades and turning them into real implementable solutions. What you showed there was concern largely around climate adaptation, that climate solutions, generally speaking, fall into mitigation and adaptation categories. And now many parts of the world are seeing the effect of climate and the intensification of flooding, of agricultural issues, of extreme heat. And it's time that we focus our efforts on trying to help those parts of the world adapt.
So with those dramatic impacts, what are the tangible goals that you think the world needs to be working towards?
Sure. So I would say they largely fall into three categories. It's getting a lot of the technological solutions that are cost effective out there into the world. For example, solar energy is cost effective in many parts of the globe. And so getting them out there means a reduction in emissions. The second category is policies. We need to look at best practices around what policies to help get climate solutions out there to mitigate the impacts of climate change. And then the third category is climate finance. There's a large focus on climate finance this year. I participated in a panel with the UN on that very topic to look at how do we get the financing out to particularly emerging economies to help them deal with the impact of climate change.
And we know that the U.S. is one of the biggest polluters out there in the world. What is the impact of America pulling back from the world stage on climate leadership?
So, of course, the U.S. is not participating in the negotiations, but there are still many people in the U.S. committed to climate mitigation and climate adaptation solutions. We see that happening in our country at the state level, at the local level. We see that happening with industries committed to sustainability, with NGOs also committed to making sure that climate solutions are getting out there. So while they're not participating in the negotiations, there's still a lot of activity around how the U.S. can play a central role, but also opening up some space for other diverse voices, other governments, other leaders in the climate change arena to come and provide more input to how we can address this even better from a global perspective.
And there's a lot of focus on corporate leadership in this time as well. And of course, you see students all the time. I'm curious, what gives you hope about the current state of our planet and the next generation?
So I do have a lot of hope. I think we always hear about climate change as being this very complex, hard to tackle challenge that we face, but we have made a lot of progress over the last few decades. In fact, 10 years ago at the Paris Climate Accords, we predicted business as usual. We'd be at 4 degrees Celsius warming by 2050. Now it's looking like we're at more like 2.7 degrees. So while we still have a ways to go, we're still making that progress. And so that's good to look at how cost effective also some of these solutions are. And so the students at the climate school and across a lot of environmental and climate programs around the world are learning about what solutions can be implemented where. And I see now more than ever a lot of passion, a lot of enthusiasm and commitment by these students to be part of the solutions moving forward. And that gives me a lot of hope.
Well, Alex Abramson up there in Columbia, thanks so much. Have a great weekend.